Welcome back to the Rundown. The German Interior Minister paid the first diplomatic visit to Israel since Operation Rising Lion wrapped up, and he saw the damage firsthand, visiting the site of one of Iran's missile attacks in Bat Yam alongside Foreign Minister Gideon Saar. They both had a strong message to share. Take a listen.
We see Iran decision to stop the oversight, the inspection of the IAEA on its nuclear program. They continue to deceive, they continue to mock the international community, but it's time now, after we saw what they are able to do, that the international community will be serious dealing with Iran nuclear program.
9 Tote, es grenzt an ein Wunder.
9 deaths. It is a miracle that the number of fatalities was not higher. It is especially bitter that 3 children and a Holocaust survivor were among the dead. It pains me to see how much damage was inflicted on a civilian population, and I want to emphasize again that Israel has our solidarity and support, as well as our partnership and friendship. We will continue to do everything to ensure that Israel's right to exist is safeguarded.
For more, we are joined now by Martha Miller, the Deputy Executive Director of NSI, the National Security Institute at GMU Law. She's joining us from Washington, D.C. Martha, thanks for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
Now, Gideon Saar, he stood alongside Germany's Interior Minister amid the missile wreckage, calling on Europe to reinstate UN sanctions on Iran. From a diplomatic perspective, how much momentum is there within Europe to trigger these said snapbacks? Is this likely something that's going to happen?
You know, I think first and foremost, let me just say, Dobryn's visit is sent a strong political signal. And his statement, much like the statements of Chancellor Merz, saying that Israel has been doing everyone's dirty work. They are sending a strong signal in general in terms of their support for Israel, not to mention that Germany itself, due to its the history of the Holocaust, views its self as, they say that their reason for being, the raison d'etre, reason of the state, is to protect Israel. So I think, the French have been pretty forward-leaning on this. I think the UK will get there. Dobryn can't speak for Germany on his own. The federal government writ large has to make that decision. I think if it were up to Dobryn, who's been a long-time supporter of Israel, I think he would probably be inclined to support it. That being said, I think the Europeans are also holding this. They view it as, something they can hold in their cards, so to speak, to for diplomatic efforts with Iran. But that being said, really it's the U.S. sanctions that have the biggest impact on Israel. The E3, it's more symbolic than anything else because it doesn't have the teeth that the American sanctions have.
Martha, you mentioned this strong message that this shows just by the Interior Minister coming here in the first place. And this is something that we've seen from Germany time and time again, this strong stance with Israel. But how much of a sway does it have over other European countries? Just because we're seeing this strong support from Europe, do we see any sort of an impact or sway from Germany to these other European countries?
Yeah, I mean, the saying goes that where Germany goes, Europe goes, and that is still true today. That is because Germany is the economic powerhouse of the EU. They have the biggest economy in Europe. They have actually, in terms of NATO, the biggest economy in Europe and NATO as well. And they have a lot of sway. They have a lot of sway with the French. They have a lot of sway with smaller countries across the board because they have the economic lever to do so. And then they have the cultural lever as well with certain countries. So yes, it means a lot. And I think it's helpful that the CDU and, Dobryn being from the CSU in particular is particularly helpful at this time because they're not as afraid to exert, they're not as afraid of deterrence as some of the other political parties in Germany.
Well, Saar also said that European support for Israel, it must deepen. I want your perspective on what that realistically could look like, not just Germany, but Europe in general. Beyond sanctions, are there other diplomatic tools that the European capitals can use to deter Iran and support Israel?
Sure. I mean, so I actually thought one of the things that was very interesting, is Dobrindt had been, expressed interest in cyber cooperation and a cyber research center and intelligence sharing, and certainly intelligence sharing can be very helpful. Look, Iran is not just active in the Middle East. As we all know, they are sharing ballistic missiles and drones with Russia for its war in Ukraine. So they're also active on European soil, not just in terms of kinetic activity, but also in hybrid threats and cyber threats. Europe is being hit a lot in cyber, just like Israel and the United States by Iran. So that's actually a pretty important move as well.
All right, Martha Miller, great to hear your thoughts on what's happening and what we could see coming from Europe when it comes to Iran. Thank you.